Hey there guys, welcome back to Coptalks and another video. So today I want to talk about guns without serial numbers, right? This is a mysterious ghost gun, and yet it's completely legal. This gun has no serial number, and the only marks it has on it are from the manufacturer of the grip and the slide. And that's about it. So how is this legal, right? Well, according to US law, you are allowed to manufacture your own firearms for personal use. And that is just for you. You can't sell it, you can't trade it, you can't give it away. I do believe you're allowed to pass it down if, someone's allowed to inherit it. But other than that, you're basically not allowed to transfer ownership of one of these firearms. Now, how do you go about doing this? Well, this is from a company, at least the frame is from P80. They make 80% lower receivers for AR-15s and Glock model pistols, right? So what does that mean? Well, it means that the frame is basically 80% complete, and there's a little bit, the last 20%, you have to do on your own. And in this case, that was drilling a few holes and then machining out some of the plastic on the inside of the frame. After that, it's basically just assembly like any other Glock, and you put it together, and then ta-da, you have a fully functional, in this case, Glock 17 style pistol. Now, in the realm of law enforcement, I know there's a lot of legal questions, how is this even a good idea? Because, criminals could get a hold of these, and then you don't have a way to trace it and everything, and that's something I kind of wanted to talk about today. So I have never, ever once come across a firearm that was used in a crime or even in the wild, really, that was manufactured from an 80% low receiver, whether used for legal purposes or not. They're just not that common yet. They're getting more so with companies like P80 and, other companies making 80% receivers for a variety of things. But I've never seen one used in a crime in my area. And I've heard about it, but I feel like it's more of a myth than a fact. So why would somebody use one of these in a crime? Well, like you said, no serial number, right? Untraceable, blah, blah, blah. The fact is, most firearms used in crimes usually have the serial numbers removed, or the firearm is stolen anyway. And if the firearm is stolen, there's no real way to track it back to a person that used it in a crime anyhow. So, why wouldn't they use one of these for a crime? Well, the simple fact is it's a lot easier to steal one than put one together. This takes a set of specialized tools, and not that special, right? You need a Dremel. I used a pocket knife and a file, a hand drill, the appropriate drill bits, a little bit of knowledge, a channel liner tool for the slide, and the knowledge of how to put it together, which there's a ton of videos and how-tos on the internet on how to fully assemble a Glock pistol. I've probably assembled, repaired, and maintained hundreds of Glock pistols, so, I don't need a video, and I have the specific tools to install the sights and everything else. But as far as your common criminal who robs gas stations and stuff at gunpoint, or probably, dope dealer, whatever, they're not going to have the general knowledge. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of smart criminals out there, and they could figure it out, or they're, very firearms knowledgeable to begin with. But on average, most police officers aren't even that knowledgeable about firearms, let alone the criminals that they're dealing with. So it's a lot easier to steal a gun and use it in a crime than it is to build one from scratch. They're not going to take the time out of their day to do the research, order the parts, have them delivered to their door, and all that other stuff, just to use it in a crime. So now talking about this pistol, the P80 frame here, this is a Glock 17 style, so it's a 17 round capacity, full size grip, and full size barrel and everything. This thing is awesome. The texture on this is just fantastic. It's way better than any stock Glock grip I've ever handled. the grip angle right here. It's very straight, very, very reminiscent of, say, a 1911. It's points just very well. Presentation is very easy. It's very controllable. It's fantastic. It's got undercuts. It's got thumb rests. It's got cutouts for the magazine release, so it's just very easy to actuate. It's got an actual Picatinny rail, and it does actually have a metal plate here where you could stamp your own serial number or initials, driver's license number, whatever on there. And then, you know, you do have a serialized part, so if it does get stolen or something, at least you have something to report. It's compatible with Gen 3 parts, so you can use... I have a bunch of just spare Gen 3 parts from my race gun build, all the stock parts. I just went ahead and threw a bunch of those in here. And it's awesome. This slide from Strike Industries actually accepts a whole variety of optics. This barrel, not one part on here is stock Glock other than this trigger. Everything else is completely aftermarket, which is just so cool. It's a Glock, but not a Glock. It just blows my mind how comfortable this thing is. And just how well this thing functions. Now, one thing about the Polymer 80 series of pistols is they're not compatible with all holsters, right? The frame is a little bit wider in some parts than a stock Glock, so it may not fit every single holster. It does not fit a whole variety of light-bearing holsters, sometimes because of the frame issue, and also sometimes because of the spacing with the Picatinny rail system. It does accept any stock Glock sights on this slide particularly, and these are actually Strike Industries blade sights right here, and I think these were about $45. It's awesome. This whole gun overall cost probably close to $600, which is about the price range for, you know, a Glock with a couple extra upgrades. What I like about this is it comes with a ton of upgrades out of the box. So you have a nice good grip texture, you have a great grip angle, you have forward and rear serrations on this one specifically, and a threaded barrel. So you're getting a lot of options that you would have to pay extra for anyway, but you built it from the ground up. It's just, you know, it's a fun project. If you don't know a lot about Glocks, if you've never really handled Glocks before, you're not too familiar with them, but you're a pretty handy person, I would definitely recommend picking one of these frames up and kind of just working on it here and there, and you'll find yourself becoming more and more familiar with the platform and guns overall by understanding the mechanics and how it works while you're putting it together. You know, I learned by doing, so putting this, like I said, I've handled tons and tons of Glocks before, and I've built them and repaired them and all this other stuff, but really just doing one from scratch was really fun and kind of its own challenge in a way, and it was just a nifty little project to pick up. I'm thinking about doing one for the Glock 43 because they do have a kit for that, Glock 26, Glock 19, and I think it'll just be a fun little project for me to do, and I'll have some guns that I can keep in the car, around the house, you know, just whatever. But yeah, overall, these are really cool. I do not consider these a threat to... I mean, yes, a firearm is always a threat to law enforcement, but as far as an unserialized gun being a threat to law enforcement, I don't think so. I don't think these guns are a threat to the general public either. These are not really used in crimes. It's going to be dealing the same way as, you know, just it's going to be dealt with the same way as just a regular firearm. Now, that brings me to how firearms are traced in crimes, right? I kind of wanted to talk about that because I get questions about that a lot. So when a firearm is used in a crime and it is recovered and there is a serial number on that firearm, generally you have to contact a manufacturer or the ATF, and they tell you who that firearm was sold to, like, was it a distributor, was it a store, things like that. So then you have to contact that distributor or store and say, okay, this serial number, this gun, where did it go? And if it's a distributor, they're going to be like, okay, we sold it to this Academy, we sold it to this Cabela's, it was sold to this Bass Pro, it was sold to this mom and pop shop, whatever. Then you have to go to that store and say, okay, hey, this serial number, this gun, who bought it and when did they buy it? Now, these stores generally only have to keep these records for a certain amount of years. And if it's been over those amount of years, if the store didn't continue to hold on to those records, then they were either destroyed or put in storage or whatever, and you may not be able to locate it. In which case, there's no record of this firearm anymore. So there may not be any information at all. Of course, for any of this stuff, you're going to need a warrant. You can't just call up and be like, yo, you know, tell me who owns this gun. That's a huge violation. Like, you're talking about Second Amendment. That's people's rights. That's a civil rights violation. So you need to have a warrant. You need to have a valid reason why you're asking for any of this stuff. So for the average person, I'd say this is a good option. I'd say this is a good thing to own. I'd say it's interesting, it's educational, it's functional, and it's fun. So anyway, guys, just thought you'd find this interesting and entertaining. I sure did. I enjoyed putting this together. It's been a fun little project, and I can't wait to start the next one. If you have any questions about these or any other type of, firearm-related questions, you go ahead and drop them down below. If you would, please leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. It helps me build the community and kind of do some more cool, interesting stuff. And you're more than welcome to join us over here. Until then, stay safe out there. Get some good training. Know your gear. Know your people. Stay safe. And I'll catch you in the next one.